Hello everyone. If you will go through this episode until end, you will get to know about zero waste costing and its fundamentals like raw material cost, conversion cost and administrative cost. So stay tuned. Hello, friends, and welcome to the series of knowledge sharing session. This side Montu Verma, and I am a procurement expert. Friends, first of all, I am very thankful to all of you for being with us today, and hope you all are safe and sound. Guys, today we are continuing our knowledge sharing session together, and this is our 12th episode. With due respect of all of you participants, I want to move forward to start this session with tagline, the more we ask, the more we learn. Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing to have a very insightful and a powerful session on how to do zero-based costing in indirect procurement. Yeah. So today we have again Kaushal Kanpara. He is having very strong background in strategic sourcing and procurement of raw material, and he is also heading multiple business categories in indirect procurement or direct procurement, right? He is also the member of our Procurious family. Hello, Kaushal, and welcome once again. We will love to listen your insights or perspective on zero-based costing. Thank you, Kaushal.
Thank you very much, Montu and Procurious team for providing me this platform. Warm welcome, everyone, and a very good afternoon, everyone. To start with my introduction, I'm Kaushal Kanpara, and I'm having nearly 10 years of experience in almost each and every domain of procurement and supply chain. I've worked in vendor development, pricing panels, strategic sourcing, supply chain, and almost each and every part of the materials management domain actually. Uh, Coming to my professional experience, so far I've worked with the commercial vehicle manufacturing companies, two-wheeler manufacturing companies, and as on date I'm with one of the world leader of agri equipment manufacturing companies. I'm heading the strategic sourcing department over here. Uh, so basically, when Monto approached me for this subject, so this subject is quite vast, and yes, obviously it is quite challenging to cover up in 1 hour or let's say 30, 45 minutes of slot timing. But yes, I have tried to optimize my skills or optimize my presentation skills and to cover up and to serve maximum whatever the best knowledge I am having and whatever the best knowledge I can share within the time slot, given time slot. So plenty of guys from our Procurious family wanted to know about zero-based costing. Yes, there were certain questions or certain demand which we have seen in the group that was related to costing of fabrication component of press or press component. But here in this particular presentation, what I have tried to sum up is to give a basic idea about zero-based costing. When an interviewer or when a company actually demands zero-based costing, what does it mean by? Since it is a vast subject and it is not just limited up to our technical or engineering knowledge, it also requires a considerable quantum of knowledge into the domain of finance and accounting field. So I want deep dive in those fields like for finance and accounting and all this. But what I will try to give you is an overlook or a view upon zero-based costing. So zero-based costing, what zero-based costing it is actually quite different or quite different than what generally we are saying that what is the uh, approximate thumb rule. So zero-based costing is totally different of thumb rule. In place of following any thumb rules for costing or costing parameters, uh, when we actually try to budget any project or budget any product, at that time zero-based costing helps us. I request Montu to share the PPT. Montu, that presentation is already there with you, I guess.
Yes, sure.
Please go ahead with the sharing.
Is it okay, Kaushal?
Uh, yeah, I think this ratio of presentation is not so Good. It will be great if we can, entire screen can be view with the presentation page only.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Is it okay with you now?
Okay. All right. Fine. It is perfect.
Thank you.
So, yeah, once again, very warm welcome, team. Very warm welcome, friends and seniors. So, what I will try to cover up and what want to be covered up in today's session, that is what just this entire slide shows about what we are going to discuss in next 30-40 minutes. In the initial 30 minutes, it will be a purely one-side seminar or one-side webinar, you can say. And I think in the next 10-15 minutes, I will try to uh, open the forum for each and everyone, and maximum queries I will try to solve. What I will be covering is zero-based costing for mass production component. It will be irrespective of commodity. It will be whether it is plastic, electrical, electronics, or fabrication or sheet metal work. The principle will be same. I will try to explain you the principle out of for the entire journey, for the entire costing journey. I will sum up raw material cost, conversion cost, and administrative cost, which will be more or less applicable to the mass production costing. What I will not be able to cover in this session is tooling cost, NRE cost. NRE is non-recoverable engineering expenses. Whatever the development cost or tooling cost or the non-recoverable engineering expenses you are doing to develop a particular product or to develop an entire uh, project. So at the time, this knowledge won't help. And another third thing is proto costing. And yes, one more important most important part is uh, what you will be getting. It will be irrespective of any commodity or irrespective of any particular project portfolio or any particular product or commodity portfolio. So next. Yeah. Yeah. So fundamentals of ZBC. So what is zero base actually? So zero base is everything above thumb rule. Whenever we are saying what is thumb rule or what is the current or approximate market trend, anything above or anything beyond the current market trend or thumb rule, that is zero base. In while calculating zero base costing, the actual meaning is you don't consider any base or any references. Let's say you are having any component or a casting component or a forging component or a plastic component. At that time, you don't compare your particular drawing or your particular design or your particular model with none of with any product which is already available in the market. What you do is just you use your commercial and technical acumen to derive a particular figure, which is called a cost, which is this entire terminology or this entire journey is called zero based costing. Zero based costing is actually submissive or universal applied for each and every commodity, and it is accounted under three major heads. First is raw material cost, second is conversion cost, and third is administrative cost. For conversion cost, plenty of the times conversion cost is as good as assembly cost or process cost. And third is quite separate, that is administrative cost. Depends upon company structure or company's parameter. There are some parameter which may vary in administrative cost. So deep diving for each and every area now. So let us first go with the raw material cost. Next. So what is raw material? So raw material is whatever the inputs we are getting to produce finished components. Here I have just to visualize you, there may be, it can be a steel bar, it can be a steel billets, plastic granules, copper wire, or some basic electrical cables and basic electronic circuits, pitch circuit board, PCBs, pitch circuit boards, or maybe a few electronic components. It can be anything. Whatever the input is required to produce a particular component or a particular product, it is considered as a raw material. Next. Yes. How to calculate the raw material cost? So there are actually, whenever you are calculating raw material, at the time you are calculating what the input cost will be required. So for input cost, you need to have two weights of the component. One will be gross weight and another one will be the finish weight or the net weight. So what is gross weight? Gross weight is whenever we are intaking any material. So the cumulative weight of the material or cumulative weight of raw material, it is called gross weight. Let's say in plastic injection molding, we are having runners, risers, and gates. So whenever I am finishing out or getting any product, at that time, my final product, what I am getting is a final product as well as some generated waste or some generated unwanted gates and unwanted material content. So whatever the input required totally is gross weight. What my final finished product is weighing, that is net weight, and what the extra material I am getting in terms of runners, risers, gates, gating system, that we call is scrap weight. If I say the same thing in the respect of fabrication or sheet metal work, whenever you want to get a blank out of an entire steel sheet or steel strip, so net blank is your net weight. Your gross weight is your blank plus the periphery, which is usually getting scrapped. Weight of final product plus periphery, which is getting scrapped. Those both of sum of both the product is gross weight. Similarly, if I speak in respect of casting process, whether it is sand casting or pressure die casting or gravity die casting or investment casting, the runners, risers, and the gating, those are the scrap, and my final product is net, and my gross is my scrap plus my net. Okay. Even if I speak in respect of forging, then my parting line is my scrap, my net product is my net weight, and my parting line. Hello, am I audible, Montu? Hello.
Yes, Kaushal, you are audible.
Fine, fine, fine. There was a message blinked on my screen, so that's why I was worried whether it has been ended up or not. Okay, fine. So here I have put an example to explain how to calculate the net raw material cost. So what you are having is gross weight. Let's say gross weight of any particular component was 9 kg, and out of that, your scrap weight is 0.75 kg. So let us try to calculate upon these two parameters. Let us try to calculate the raw material cost. Uh, let's say raw material price per kg is 120 rupees. So gross raw material price will become 1080 rupees. Okay. So when you out of those gross raw material price, when you are investing 1080 rupees, what you are getting is you are getting 0.75 kg of scrap. Now, whenever you are selling this scrap to the market, usual thumb rule or usual formula is uh, scrap weight is usually one third of any particular raw material. So let's say per kg scrap value is getting generated is 40 rupees. Hence, scrap cost is 30 rupees. So in per kg 40 rupees and 0.75 kg, it will get converted into 30 rupees. So net raw material cost, there is some mistake in formula. So net raw material cost will become 1050 rupees. Your gross is 1080 rupees. Out of those gross 1080 rupees, you will be getting a final product as well as scrap. Scrap cost is 30 rupees. So your gross will become, your net cost will become gross minus scrap cost. So this is the calculation of raw material. So it will be applicable for any plastic granules or steel scrap or any forging material inputs or any steel bar inputs. I think in my previous webinar, many of you will be there, and I tried to in details to capture how the raw material cost is getting referred from market, how the steel prices moves, and from where we can get the reference or actual prices of steel, what is going on. Similarly, there are reference prices available for steel, copper, aluminum, nickel, zinc, zemek, as well as plastics and its derivatives. So I won't be deep diving into raw material reference prices or the indicative prices. So I think those presentation and those webinar video is already available on YouTube as well as on our Procurious page in LinkedIn as well. So I think if you want to get more through raw material index prices, you can refer these that webinar as well as those data. So this was all about raw material cost. This raw material cost will be, as I said, or as I'm trying to explain, it will be irrespective of your commodity. In any commodity, the same, this fundamental will be same. Scrap plus net is equal to gross. That is the only fundamental. Next. Coming to the process cost. So what is process cost and what is the base of process cost? Process cost is nothing but the cost which you are paying to run a particular machine. In engineering field or in manufacturing field or in let's say in modern commodities field, whenever you are converting any raw material into a finished good or a final product, what you eventually require is a machine. So that particular machine, if I consider rate of 1 hour, what will be the cost to run the machine for 1 hour? That is actually process cost. Let's here I have tried to sum up n number of commodities or processes for in this particular process or in this particular commodity, what will be your machine and what will be the machine parameter. That is what I have tried to sum up. Like for casting, we have furnace parameter is in tonnage. Like furnace can be for 1 ton, furnace can be for 2 ton as well. So whatever the MHR is for 1 ton cannot be the same MHR for 2 ton. Like to run the 1 ton of machine, you need separate cost, or to run the machine of 1 ton, you need and separate energy to run. And at the same time, to run the 2 tonnage of furnace, you need altogether different power, different process, different manpower, different electricity power, different capital. So machine cost depends upon the parameter as well. Whenever the machine capacity or machine parameter gets changed, at that time MHR also gets changed. For forging, machine can be forging press or hammer. For machining, it can be CNC, VMC or HMC. For plastic, it can be molding machine, whether it is injection molding or blow molding. For sheet metal, it can be hydraulic press as well as mechanical press. For fabrication work, it will be welding machine. And for yes, electronics assembly, it can be SMT line or an SMT machine. So parameter for casting, machining, casting, forging and sheet metal will be tonnage or kg. Similarly, for injection molding, it will be again tonnage or kgs. For machining, most of the time it will be bed size, that how bigger component can be accommodated over there. Few machines are available with the 600 by 600 bed size, so it can accommodate relatively smaller components. Few larger machines are available which can accommodate components up to 1 meter or 1000 of length, so it is a bigger machine. So MHR for the smaller machine will be different and MHR for the bigger machine will be different. So what you are calculating in process cost is, and how much energy or how much rate or how much rent you will pay to accommodate a particular or to use that particular machine for a particular time phrase. I have tried to explain an MHR or process cost with a formula. Let's say if a particular machine, whether it is a VMC machine or CNC machine, MHR means machine hour rate. What is per hour rate for to run the particular machine? It can be 300 rupees, it can be 500 rupees, it can be 5,000 rupees, depends upon machine and its capacity. So let us say one particular machine, it is having MHR or machine hour rate of 300 rupees. It means to use that particular machine for 1 hour, I need 300 rupees. Let's say your component is getting output from this particular machine who is having MHR of 300 rupees, and the component cycle time is 120 seconds, it means 2 minutes, then my eventual process cost will become 10 rupees. for per hour to use that particular machine, you need to pay 300 rupees. And if you are using that particular machine for 2 minutes, your process cost will be 10 rupees. So this is the fundamental of how you calculate the process cost irrespective of the commodity. Now, many of you must be wanted to know about what is MHR and how it is calculated. But as I started, or as I explained in the very early of this webinar, this requires, apart from the technical or commercial knowledge, apart from technical or our engineering background, it requires lots and lots of finance and accounting knowledge as well. So MHR subject is quite vast in itself. So that is why I was not able to accommodate this MHR explanation in the today's presentation. If it is required and if it is demanded by the people, I request Montu, we may arrange another session upon how to calculate MHR or how to derive machine hour rate. So this is the actually basic fundamental or basic knowledge about how to reach up to process cost. One more thing I would like to add. What happens plenty of the times is you get some assemblies done. Apart from getting, let's say, 5 or 10 numbers of child part, you get one particular assembly also done in the supplier end or your service provider end. Now, how will you calculate MHR or process cost over there? At that time, process cost or MHR will become sum of all machineries used over assembly line. Let's say if there is a press for assembly, if there is a hammer, or if there is any SPM getting used for assembly, at that time you need to consider all the machine equipment, whether it is small or big, or even if it is SPM, you need to sum up all the machineries which are available on assembly line and all the manpower which are available on assembly line. Those need to be summed up. Just to have you a brief idea about what all counts into MHR or how this MHR is getting derived, I won't be able to explain you in much detail, but yeah, I will try to fix it in a one line, or what are the cost. Let us start with very much quite fundamental. If I want to run a forging hammer, which is having capacity of let's say 1.5 tonnage, to run the particular forging hammer, what all you will be required, that will be your MHR. So let us start with the plain ground. Once you are having a plain ground in your factory or at your service provider's factory, what else you will be required? You will be requiring a machine. So to purchase that particular machine, you need to have some capital. So of course, there will be a capital cost which will be requiring for MHR. Number two, when you are installing a machine, after commissioning and installing, what you will be required, that is some tooling or some capitalized item, like maybe forging die, or maybe a few accessories of press. So those expenses will get sum up of your forging die or your capital investment. This is first thing. Second thing will be your electricity cost. To run the particular hammer, you need XYZ in electricity cost. So that electricity cost will be added. Number three, the machine won't run only upon electricity cost. It will be requiring direct manpower. I repeat, it will be requiring direct manpower or an operator. So the operator cost or the direct manpower cost will also be accommodated in this MHR. Number four is you will be required some consumables. For, if let's say if it is a forging hammer, so it is requiring a hydraulic. If it is having a hydraulic cylinder, you will be requiring some hydraulic energy, or probably hydraulic fluid or hydraulic oil. So this consumable cost will get added. Number five will be required, that is inventory. Whenever you are applying the enter all these cost parameter, the sum up value, it becomes MHR. So there is an extra entire knowledge session, or an entire session can be arranged to deep dive into MHR. It requires a few knowledge of accounting and financing as well. So I will try to at appropriate time to deliver about MHR as well. So this is all was about process cost. Next. Okay. And last and not the least, and this is the most tricky part, where our service provider or supplier tries to play or influence us, because these are the area which don't have any remarkable references or remarkable data in front of us to calculate these costs. And this cost mainly varies from supplier to supplier. Let's say what if your service provider is a multinational company. At that time these administrative cost will be different. And let's say if your service provider is a company with very small setup and with some quite beginning stage, at that time your administrative cost is will be different. So let us understand this how these administrative cost is different, and what all major heads it is having. First and foremost is profit. To some of the raw material and some of the raw material cost and process cost, what margin or what the profit margin he will blame you, whether he will ask for 5%, whether he will ask for 8%, 12%, or 15%. So as a buyer or as a purchaser or as a costing engineer, how will you negotiate, or what profit margin will be exact good one or the exact justifiable for your service provider? That depends morely upon value addition and risk factor of supplier. Let's say your supplier is manufacturing any component which is quite risky in the market. To get raw material of that particular component or that particular product is also quite challenging. Raw material is not easily accessible in market. Your supplier need to carry a entire big batches of raw material, as well as the process is quite complicated. It goes through plenty of processes, like n number of step for machining, n number of setup for turning, then maybe heat treatment, then again machining. If so, value addition or process cost part is bigger, profit will become bigger. Again, I will repeat. Whenever the process cost part is bigger, at that time profit is bigger. If profit or if process cost part is smaller, it means value addition done by the supplier is smaller. At that time, profit will be smaller. So in our engineering field, 10% is the ideal one, but yes, it varies from 5% to 10%. So as I said, whenever supplier is having very small value addition, if it is doing very normal assembly work, which does not require any SPM or special tools or special fixtures or special machineries, at that time their profit margin should be less. Hello.
Yes, Kaushal, please continue.
Yeah, overhead part. I will go towards overhead part. What is overhead? As I said, in MHR, what cost is involved, that is direct manpower cost. Person who operates the particular machine, person who runs the press, person who runs the injection molding machine, or person who does welding on himself. Now, only those people won't be involved in the manpower cost. Apart from that particular manpower cost, you must be having some supervisors, executives, or even managers who will be responsible to run the entire operation show, or for marketing or for sales. So all those manpower cost or all those value will be considered as an overhead values. It more or less it depends upon the how many white collar executives are there in number. So we don't have any references that if this many of numbers are there, then the overhead margins will be so and so. But yes, if I'm if I'm comparing to an MNC with a nominal company who is having quite small setup, at the time there will be difference in between overhead of all these two. So overhead portion is usually limited from 5% to 10%. 10% is the maximum overhead which we are awarding to supplier. So this is the overhead cost. Number 3 is packaging cost. Packaging cost is not a rocket science. Whatever the packaging material your supplier is using, whether it is plastic films, bubble sheets, corrugated box, or plastic bins, or the fabricated box and fabricated bins, those costs need to be accommodated. Let's say in a particular box of corrugated, your 10 numbers of component are getting used. So one particular box cost should be divided upon the 10 numbers of pieces. This is packing cost. Number 4 is transportation cost. Again, it is not a rocket science. It is as per actual. We have to become practical. If let's say your supplier is using 1 tonnage of Chota Hathi or Tata Ace to deliver material from your end to his end. And let us say the entire trip is, let's say it's nearly 15, 20 kilometers away, and entire trip is costing nearly at 700 rupees. So we need to find out, we need to figure out that how many components he is carrying in, how many components he is delivering in one particular trip, which is costing to him 700 rupees. Let's say he is delivering 1400 components. So it is quite clear that per component he is investing, or he is per component he is paying 0.5 rupees or 50 paisa for one particular component. So transportation cost is also purely based upon actual. Number five is inspection cost. Here it is somewhat tricky, I can say. If there can be two kinds of inspection. One kind of inspection, it is, let's say it is quite automatic inspection. Whenever you go to electronics, you mostly what you are having is, if I'm not wrong, that optical glass or optical camera. So you don't need any manpower to run that particular machine, right? So how you will derive that but inspection cost in at that particular stage? That you need to calculate MHR of for that optical camera. This is number one. Number two, this first kind of scenario wherein you don't use any manpower. Second kind of scenario is if you are using, let's say, particular manpower, wherein you are using vernier, height gauge, micrometer, and you are going through a complete, detailed inspection report. At that time, what you need to do is you need to understand that how many operators or how many man hours are being spent by him upon one in one particular shift. Let's say in particular one shift he is engaging two operators just only and only for inspection purpose, and in one particular shift he is delivering 1000 numbers. So what you need to do is manpower cost of 2%. Let's say as per the wage records, and as per the skilled manpower law, it becomes 350 rupees per day. So 700 rupees he is 350 rupees per day per person. So 700 rupees he is spending behind the salary of inspection executives or inspection operators. So these 700 rupees you need to divide upon the entire output of particular shift. So this is how inspection cost is getting calculated. And last is rejection cost. Yeah, this rejection cost is again a tricky one, I can say. There are a few references or few benchmarks available, wherein depends upon particular commodity or a particular process. If I am running an injection molding machine, so this is the process wherein there are not n number of process parameter which is affecting your rejection. So your rejection will always be less than 1%. It can be 0.4% or it can be 0.5%. At that time, whatever your rejection rate is, you need to pay that many of percentage. So if your rejection rate is higher, let's say in sand casting process, your rejection rate will be always greater than 2%, because it is complication of process itself, which wherein you cannot demand, or you cannot ask your supplier to have their internal ppm 0 ppm, or he may not operate up to 4 sigma or 5 sigma level. He needs, the process is complicated in itself, that it depends purely upon weather, it depends purely upon the sand conditions as well as operator skills. So usually there will be a high ratio of rejection. So if there is high ratio of rejection, you need to pay 3% or 4% of cost. So so rejection cost is purely based upon the process capability and process itself. So these were the areas of enter all these zero-based costing. So that is how we can calculate raw material cost, process cost, and admin cost. So I request Montu to keep the mic open for all the participants, of course, turn by turn. So you all, the forum is quite open now for each and everyone to share your thoughts and anything I have mistaked, or anything which you wanted to know which I have not included in this one, or whatever the thoughts you want to share upon the zero-based costing.
Thank you,
Over to you,
Kaushal.
Montu.
Thank you for your great insight on raw material costing. Now, I would like to invite my participant. They can ask question if they have any directly to Kaushal. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kaushal. This is Biplab Sharma. I had a
Yes,
query,
Biplab.
though you have illustrated very well about the raw material cost conversion and admin cost. So I had a experience that there are machine idle time or setup cost, which also should be a part of zero-based costing, which I feel. Because I have seen it has
Yes,
been a considerable amount of money or cost is involved in particular.
yes, sir. Let me try to explain this one. Very good question, I can say. Whenever you are changing your component or the existing product line, at that time you need some breathing time, or the machine also needs some breathing time. Your operator also needs some breathing time uh, to change over one particular product, right? If you are unloading and loading particular die, or you are loading and unloading some fixture sets, at that time usually your machine is getting idle. So what we are doing is, if we deep dive into MHR, machine hour rate, at that time we are considering this idle time. It obviously it depends upon whether your shift, this particular changeover, it happens how many time in the shift. Let's say if it is happening at every 2 hour, if you are coming, if you are getting a component forged, and if this changeover is happening at every 2 hour, it won't be commercially viable, as well as it won't prove too much, it will not justify your MHR as well. So this particular timing, let's say in your entire shift of 8 hours, you are spending 30 or 45 minutes for changeover, if in one particular shift only. So this changeover time is getting accommodated into MHR. What happens in plenty of time, if let's say if you are working in any automobile company, so in automobile company, exactly same product for exactly same product is getting used for over year and year and over shift and shift. So at that particular time, this changeover time will not be applicable. But yes, wherein the frequent change is there, wherever the mass production volume is quite less, at that time frequent changing is happening. At that time, we are accommodating this changeover time or the backlog of particular machine into MHR.
Thank you. That is
Hope this.
basically it talked about,
Yeah.
yeah, it talked about setup cost. But I mean to say, should we pay the vendor? Suppose the load is not enough for a particular season,
Okay.
you get into that in a manufacturing. Sometimes you not have entire day's load or something. So should we pay? Because vendors are very tricky. I should, and now I'm putting you in a very tricky question. Vendors are not so transparent or will not be benevolent enough to share you all the details. But yes, there are no load costs also involved. So how to enforce them being in a strategic sourcing to
Right.
give that figure?
Right. At that time, what is happening, sir? See, if very initially or whatever the volume you have quoted, if you are following, if your company is following those volumes, let's say if you are putting an RFQ like that, if you are capable or your product is only capable to run the machine for one shift, so at that time you are paying him cost for one shift. So at that time you are not responsible for what supplier will do in second shift. He may ask, he may seek his more business in market. He may get an alternate customer as well. So at that time you are not responsible. Yes, but let us say like what we are right now facing is pandemic situation. We also don't have volumes to purchase from our supplier. So at the same time, my supplier is also not so much engaged. That what happens at that time, what happens, your MHR or machine hour rate, it gets influence, it gets quite higher. Let's say your machine gets operated only for 3 hours in entire day, and uh, in these 3 hours your entire output is getting generated or is getting produced. So the expenses, he's having some fixed expenses, like he has to pay his operator for 8 hours. He has to pay some electricity cost, irrespective of whether he is machine running the machine for 2 hours or 8 hours. Like for furnace, he cannot for casting furnace, he cannot directly switch off the switch, and he cannot become idle. So he need to switch on this casting furnaces, whether he will give entire load to that furnace for 2 hours or 1 hour or in 8 hours. So at that time you need to accommodate this cost in MHR. If let's say if your manpower is 100% available, but you are getting output, but you are utilizing them for only 2 hours, at that time you need to, of course you need to increase their MHR from since he is operating at only 50% of output, so his MHR must also get increased by 50%. Let's say if MHR understanding for 2 hours of shift is 300 rupees, but you are not right now awarding him in the entire business, or he is becoming idle. So you have to consider rise in MHR over itself. So you have to pay accordingly. In place of 300 rupees, you need to increase that MHR to 400 or 450 rupees. So if we deep dive into MHR at the time, I think you can get more idea about how to accommodate such a cost. It varies from case to case. It varies whether it is impacting upon your electricity cost, or whether it is impacting upon your only manpower cost, or electricity plus manpower, or it is impacting upon your capital cost as well, or it is impacting upon your consumable cost as well. So ultimately, to sum up your queries, we have to increase MHR wherever we are not utilizing supplier's capacity fully, and he is dedicating all his sources as per his entire capacity planning. So we have to increase MHR in such cases.
Hi,
So
Kaushal.
Kaushal, yes.
Another thing is the TOP, that is terms of payment, which also plays a significant role while vendor quotes less or more, because that is very significant information they seek while having RFQ or at the final level of negotiation. The TOP.
Very true, sir. Very true. Somehow I have not accommodated that payment condition into costing sheet. What we are doing is, or what usually practice happens in the mass production manufacturing sector is, whenever supplier is transparent enough to share his costs in terms of MHR, or in terms of overhead, or in terms of profit, or in packing, transportation, and rejection cost itself, whenever you are having very good payment terms, if you are paying your supplier whether in advance or up to 15 days, it is getting considered as a very lucrative or very fine payment condition. At that time, your supplier needs to get opened up more. And yes, if he is somewhat reserve about sharing the data or cost data, at that time you can accommodate, like his payment condition will be in place of 15 or 30 days, it will be 45 to 50 days. So yes, payment condition is good, is also quite a challenging or deciding factor in deriving the cost. But yes, somehow I was not able to sum up in this sheet. But where we are also using is, that is inventory carrying cost. Let's say your supplier is getting a benefit of payment within 15 days. So it means only for 15 days he need to invest his working capital. So his working capital is running in the market at only 15 days of credit. At that time, his inventory carrying cost will be different. Number two, if we are paying, or as the customer you are paying to him after 1 month, at that time his inventory carrying cost will become different. So yes, inventory carrying cost is another parameter which usually considered as a part of administrative cost. And yes, if through ICC or inventory carrying cost, we can sum up this payment condition.
Hi, Kaushal.
Kaushal,
Tapan here.
sorry Tapan, sorry to hold you. So Kaushal, you can also go through to the chat box, as people are also asking questions
Yes.
over there. Thank you.
Fine. Yes,
Kaushal,
Tapan, please
hello.
go ahead. Yeah.
Kaushal,
Hello.
this is Tapan from Mumbai.
Yes. Yes,
On
please.
this zero-based costing, lot of documentary evidences are required, for the audit and, other supporting things. So what is your
Mhm.
suggestion on that? How to generate and maintain the documents, for various
Right.
assumptions or various calculations we are making while doing ZBC?
Correct. To answer your query, I will say what is happening most of the time, we are getting confused in profits and overhead. And through document generation is a good part from where we are getting some inputs is, if your supplier is, let's say, limited company or public limited company, his balance sheet is easily accessible to each and every buyer, or each and every, I can say, purchaser across the industry. So you need to go through such a balance sheet of component. You need to read, or through some your accounting or financing acumen, that how much profits and how much overheads they are paying in their overall operational cost. From this is the one documentation part. Second documentation part is, uh, whenever supplier is getting some finance from any bank, or some financial institution, at that time, if he is paying anything beyond what normal industrial loan rate is. Let's say industrial road industrial loan rate at present should be nearly around 12 to 14%, depends upon who is the lender. So if he is paying anything substantially beyond this, then yes, he must be having some evidences to support. He must be having some evidences to justify his finance pattern. So these are the documentation part, I guess, which you are referring to. If
Yeah, thanks, Kaushal.
anything else,
Hello.
yes,
Hello, I am Girish from Vadodara. So
yes,
for
Girish, sir.
this, for this castings and forgings, we have a lot of
Okay,
complicated process itself. Okay, like for the
right,
substance, for the castings, we have lot number of parameters for the stainless steels for our hydropower projects, where there are some pattern box, there are sand, there are some more like furnaces, there is manpower, and there is a quality requirement like the non-destructive testing, the UT and the MPI, which no. So there are
correct, correct.
lot many overheads going at a pace. Then how can we derive in deep for the each and every steps? No, it will be a tricky part. Whereas also it depends on the suppliers also how they rate also.
Correct.
Yeah, so that MHR also, the process cost, as you said, the more the complication of the process, the more the profit will be. So in this kind of typical processes, what would be the approximate, like the market profit cost does the supplier impose on the buyer? So is it normally
Okay.
a 10% or beyond that? Because sometimes it will
Uh,
be very tricky.
Sir, what I have seen in my short career is if I'm purchasing any conventional commodities, let's say it is casting, machining, forging, and fabrication. I will say these four commodities are quite conventional commodities upon which Indian manufacturing industry is running from more than 50 years. So this is nothing new. So whenever a
Yeah.
service provider or a supplier he is providing any material from such conventional commodities, at that time his profit margin will not cross 10% in any condition,
Okay.
unless and until he is having one a few conditions, like if let's say for sand casting, if on project basis, if you require sometimes 100 or 150 kg of component, so for
Hmm.
such kind of component you don't have n number of suppliers or n number of infrastructure available across India. So there are hardly double digit people who are working upon the casting, which are weighing up to 150 of kg. At that time, yes, he may ask for 12, 15, 17%. It can become upon the understanding between the buyer and supplier. But yes, if it is in the normal range, which is usually available in the market, if it is the technology which is available in India from last 4 and 5 decades, at that time people usually don't cross, or people usually don't demand, or buyers usually don't pay anything beyond 10%. Uh, so where do we pay more than 10%? That part is, let's say there is some technology oriented components. While migrating in automobile from BS4 to BS6, you have introduced, or we in automobile field has introduced n number of supporting components or n number of components which are technology driven. We have
Yeah.
imported technology from whether it is from Germany or Japan or USA. And for those all technology driven components or technology driven suppliers, obviously 10% will not work for them, because their
Yes.
expenses upon NRE, non-recoverable engineering expenses upon R&D,
Okay.
design, development, testing, validation, it's huge. So at the time,
So
usually, yes, with Bosch and Continental, they won't agree at 10 or 12%. They need 15, 20% of margin, and irrespective of in which company you are sitting, you have to pay 15 to 20% margin. That is what I have seen in my short career.
and also
Uh,
in
j-
the
and-
and also in the administration cost, like overheads,
yes,
if my supplier will do some expansion, like he will invest in some more machines or some infrastructure, he will build more number of sheds for the machining, so they will surely add this cost. So and honestly they will not share the what kind of means what percentage of cost they will add in this overhead. So
mhm.
is it means this also will contribute to the overheads? No, this is the mainly the
Sir,
overheads.
whenever he is investing anything into capital, whether he
Mm.
is purchasing a lead or building a shed or purchasing machine, it won't
Yes.
directly related to your overhead cost. But yes, if he's
But
expanding his
how the
shade and
how
he's
but
let
how
me
does,
complete.
yeah.
If he's expanding a shade and if he's hiring another planted, let's say who
Hmm.
is having CTC of at least 20 lakh rupees, so at
Yeah.
that time definitely his overhead will get affected, and we have to consider these things. If to accommodate your product or your product expansion has been happened, and he has hired a number of plant head, general managers or supervisors, so it is the directly white collar manpower cost. That is what overhead is. It is not directly related with the capital investment. Your capital
Oh,
investment directly reflects in your MHR, in machine
oh,
overhead. It does not
okay.
reflects in the overhead portion. Hope it
Okay.
satisfied, sir. Yeah,
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you.
most welcome, sir.
So, Kaushal, probably you can also check.
Yeah, I'm going through this chat communication.
Thank
One
you.
message is from Mr. Raj Kumar Makija. He is asking, from procurement perspective, we need to work out RM to revenue ratio. Will help everyone to work out ZBC or first principle costing. Okay, so what you are indicating is RM to revenue. It seems to be what value addition he is doing. If he is investing 100 rupees upon RM value, at finally he is able to offer product of 110 rupees or 1000 rupees. That I think you tries to indicate, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Rajkumar. So at that time, what I said is it directly will reflect into his profit margin. If he is adding n number of value to that raw material, so eventually the product cost will be higher, and his profit margin will also become higher. If he is purchasing an RM and if he is just assembling or just packing it or repacking it, at that time definitely his revenue will not get more. So higher the revenue to raw material ratio, higher is his profit, and lower is revenue to raw material ratio, lower is the profit. Hope this sounds logical and convincing your question, Rajkumar. Second question is from MD Kamil. Could you please tell me how to calculate depreciation cost? Kamal, as I said, this it is a part. This depreciation and interest part is of MHR machine hour rate, and it is yes a vast subject in itself. So depreciation to just to give you a brief idea, or just to give a just a heading like, or a, let's say I will say a boundary idea about to calculate depreciation cost. There are two kinds of depreciation cost calculation method. One is straight line method, and another is I'm forgetting the terminology. One is straight line, and another is one is straight line method,
Depreciation,
and
diminishing
another
balance
is
method.
yes, exactly, termination balance. So it's more of a accounting or finance kind of subject. So for that, I think we can go through the in the another next session. If we open up the entire MHR at the time, these all terminologies, if we are whether we are using any machine for 2 hours per two shift per day or three shift per day or single shift per day, at that time both all the time your depreciation value or depreciation cost will get changed. So I think if we open up the MHR chapter at that time, all these queries will get addressed. Then there is yeah, how to identify supplier is providing correct MHR? Very good question, Mr. Prathamesh. As I said, if we go through the MHR, yes, we do have references available for our MHR. Let's say if I speak in terms of sheet metal, what the thumb rule is for 100 tonnage of sheet metal press, it will become 125 rupees of MHR. If for 150 ton of press, 150 tonnage into 1.25 rupees will be the MHR. If I go to the injection molding for 200 tonnage of machine, 200 rupees will be the MHR. So this is the thumb rule or the basic rule. But as I said, as a cost engineer or as a engineering plus commercial person, we should challenge or we should not follow all these uh, market rate or the market benchmark. We can open up the entire MHR chapter, which I will try to address, which I will try to deliver a webinar upon it. And at that time, you can calculate upon your own itself. Suppose if your component demands an SPM, special purpose machine, so you may be having an MHR for forging hammer or press, conventional press. But if you go through SPM, if you are having clear fundamentals that how MHR is getting derived, you can derive for an SPM as well, which won't get used anywhere in the world except your organization or your suppliers premises. So yes, I will try to deliver a lesson or a session upon MHR as well, machine overrate. Rajkumar is having one more comments. He's saying, in my opinion, such detailed ZBC is required when you are developing an item with collaborative approach, and that most of the parameters need to be transparent. Very true, Rajkumar. Yes, your supplier has to become transparent. Trust factor to both the side, to your supplier as well as at your end, should be at, I can say, at very high level. And when this ZBC can be calculated, let us become very affirmative. Let us become very firm about this. Whenever you are having your business with your service provider for, let's say, for years and years, for months and months, for volume and volume, at that time only your supplier will support you for ZBC, and at that time only you can access those data in whether it is cycle time or your capital investment from your service provider. If you are going for one-time requirement of or you are going through any indirect requirement or a one-time requirement or a project-based requirement, at that time ZBC methodology won't help at all. This is very true, and I truly buy your opinion, Rajkumar Makhija. Vimal Kumar is asking, what is criteria of ZBC? Because we cannot do in slow moving parts. Of course, you cannot do in slow moving part you cannot do in one-time requirement, but yes, you can do it in slow moving parts. You can do it in slow moving parts. That how part is different, but yes, if your requirement is in such a way that your supplier is producing it only in 2 times in an entire month, but yes, there also you can accommodate your zero-based costing. But what will happen? Your MHR rate will be higher than what you are actually paying for a mass production item. So yes, if it is one-time requirement, you cannot apply ZBC as I said during Makija's comment. But yes, if it is slow moving part, if you are procuring or purchasing, or your supplier is manufacturing just 2 times or 3 times in a month, ZBC can be derived. But yes, MHR, we have to accommodate all these factors, if low volume and plus and minus, up and down requirement, these factors need to be accommodated in the zero-based costing sheet as well. Can we do ZBC to electrical and electronics parts? Yes, of course. We can do it. Entire electrical industry, or sorry, automobile industry, we do have lots and lots of electrical parts. To name a few is wiring harness, connectors, couplers. These are the electrical portion. Some starter motors, lighting, switches. These are the electrical parts. And for electronics parts, yes, we do have sensors, combined units, sensor units. We call it CDI, as well as ECU. So yes, for electrical and electronics parts also ZBC can be applied. Fundamental will remain same, but yes, machinery will get changed, raw material will get changed. Yes, and as we are constantly discussing is, your volume or production requirement should be higher. It should not be one-time requirement. But yes, I think Montu can also share if he can, since he is associated with the electronics industries from last 10 years. So for electronics components or electronics child components also, people go through zero-based costing. Let's say if I'm working for Samsung, and if I am buying a particular chip or a particular circuit in thousands per every month, so definitely I will go through zero-based costing only. What is ratio of scrap recoverable and non-recoverable? Vimal, it is see, whenever I am saying scrap, so it means it is recoverable only. What happens plenty of time during processes, let us take an example of casting process. At that time, you are having some burning losses. You are having some metal which is already flying in the air, which is already there in the air. It may stick upon your infrastructure. It may stick upon the roof of the your supplier's plant. You won't be able to recover it. So yes, that burning loss will not be called scrap. It will become the process loss or burning loss or the process loss. Okay. But whatever the yield you are getting, after getting your yield or output component, whatever the leftover material you are getting, that is recoverable scrap, and that is only scrap on. So it depends upon the process, that what is recoverable and what is non-recoverable. I think apart from casting, there are very less processes, or apart from the very less processes where you are having non-recoverable scrap. Or yes, what happens in plenty of time in while doing machining also, let's say in grinding. In grinding, you are having steel components, steel particles in the powder form. So this powder form is usually not considered as a recoverable scrap. That is another good point you have put, because the powder, it doesn't get recycled anywhere and it is less getting used. But yes, it is in forms of chip or the burrs. At that time, it is getting used. So this ratio between recoverable and non-recoverable is totally depend upon process. And what is non-recoverable, that is entirely process loss. It is not part of scrap cost. In scrap cost, we are considering only scrap cost. Sunil Deshmukh says his ICC is missing in administrative cost. It is very
So,
important parameter.
sorry to hold you, Kaushal. Time really
Yeah,
flies, and I would recommend
I think
we can have
I
another
think
session, and we can cover all questions answer in next session, or probably the
fine.
remaining candidates can approach directly to Kaushal Kanpara. So, Kaushal, can you please share your coordinates so that anyone have any question, then directly ask.
I think most of the participants are connected with the WhatsApp as well as Telegram or LinkedIn. They can directly approach me. I am available in both in the WhatsApp group as well as Telegram as well as on LinkedIn. Just remember my name, Kaushal Kanpara. You will be able to search my contact as well from WhatsApp group. You can directly get in touch with me. No issue.
So thank you, Kaushal. Dear all respective participant, now I have something special to inform you. Yeah, many of us have some doubts about ISM courses like CPP or CPM. Though ISM offers many professional courses for procurement fraternity, hence we are planning to organize a session about ISM courses, and happy to share that someone directly from ISM will join us next week probably, and debrief about ISM courses detail, certification value, fees structure, and the best part is that we might have best discount from Procurious, I mean ISM for Procurious group members basis on head counts. So fantastic, Kaushal. Before we really move to end of this session, I would like to thank to all of you guys for being with us today. And I will also share the session note and recording on social media like LinkedIn, YouTube, and WhatsApp as well. So Kaushal, thank you so much for give us out of box insight, and what we heard from you is biggest one today. And today we touched 80 numbers of participant, which is best one for us. And wow, I really enjoyed it. Kaushal, thank you for being with us. And somebody is asking question, I think. So 1 + 6, there is no name mentioned over there. So I would recommend we can have another session. And today we are very close to end of this session. Thank you once again, and thank you for your patience and time, guys. Hope you really enjoyed
Thank you
today's
very much.
session. And in case any suggestion or any feedback for Procurious, you can share here right now in one line. If you have any suggestion, I am repeating my words again. If you have any suggestion or feedback for Procurious, you please feel free to suggest here in one line only. Thank you so much.